Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really chilling story, a case that's been a mystery for, well, decades now.
It really has.
Between 1978 and 1992, picture this: the rural South, the lower Midwest, they become this sort of silent stage for just a horrifying pattern.
Yeah, along 6 major interstate routes, the bodies of at least 14 white women were found, discarded.
And the connection, the thing that jumps out,
Yeah.
almost all of them had red hair, natural or dyed. It's a detail that really sticks with you.
It's incredibly stark, isn't it? And eventually this cluster of cases, it caught the FBI's attention.
Right.
By 2004, the pattern was clear enough that they included it in the Highway Serial Killings Initiative.
Oh, okay.
Which was, a database set up specifically to track these kinds of truck stop murder patterns, trying to connect the dots between cases in different states.
And that red hair detail, it's striking. Fewer than 2% of the world's population have red hair. How did that specific feature kind of play into the investigation early on? Did it help or maybe even hinder things?
That's a great question. It was both. It definitely served as a kind of beacon, right? It helped investigators focus, look for links they might otherwise miss. But, that same specificity could also be a bit of a red herring. It might make them overlook other crucial elements if a victim didn't have red hair, or maybe assume connections that weren't really there.
I see.
And for the public, it definitely amplified the whole mystery, gave it this haunting, almost folkloric quality.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack this. We want to look at all the complex layers.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the individual women, their stories. We'll get into the huge investigative challenges over the years.
And the breakthroughs, too, especially with modern forensics that are finally giving some answers.
Exactly. And, of course, we'll look at the questions that still, hang over this case today.
There are definitely still questions.
Okay, let's start with the victims. It's crucial we remember these women. We'll go chronologically by when they were discovered. First up is Lisa Nichols. She was only 28. Found September 16th, 1984, West Memphis, Arkansas, right off I-40. What did her case tell investigators early on?
Well, Lisa was found wearing just a sweater about 30 yards off the road near the St. Francis River Bridge. Her fingerprints took 9 months to match.
9 months.
Yeah. It turned out she'd been living pretty transiently, moving between Florida and West Virginia, often hitchhiking, catching rides at truck stops.
That points to a big challenge right there.
Absolutely. It highlighted how many potential victims were transient, maybe didn't have immediate missing person reports filed. Identification was a huge hurdle. The autopsy showed ligature marks, no sexual assault, and estimated she'd been dead maybe 24 to 48 hours. That detail was useful, for checking truck receipts, weigh station logs.
But with that lag and ID.
Exactly. Crucial early leads could easily just vanish. Time was always against them.
Then, New Year's Day, 1985, Jellicoe, Tennessee, off I-75. Tina Marie McKinney Farmer. She was 21, 10 weeks pregnant. Her case turned out to be pretty pivotal, didn't it?
Hugely pivotal. Tina was found bound with speaker wire, wrapped in a brown blanket. And crucially, that blanket contained biological evidence, seminal fluid, pubic hair.
Early DNA, even back then.
Yes, though the tech was basic then. But years later, in 2016, they retested it, and it matched a long-haul trucker named Jerry Leon Johns.
Jerry Leon Johns.
Right. Now, Johns had actually died in prison in 2015, but in 2019, a grand jury in Campbell County determined that, yes, he would have been indicted for Tina's murder if he'd still been alive.
So a confirmed link, posthumously.
Exactly. And what's really chilling, another woman, Margaret Shack, who survived an assault by Johns, she later told reporters he actually boasted he could make a girl disappear between Knoxville and Little Rock.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly disturbing. Tells you something about his mindset.
It really does. So just a pattern, maybe more victims.
Okay, moving on just a few months. March 31st, 1985. Michelle Lavone Inman, 23 years old, found in Pleasant View, Tennessee, off I-24. What was different about her discovery?
Well, hers were skeletal remains, but what was unusual was that quite a bit of her clothing was still there. Many other victims were found nude or partly nude.
Any significance to that, do they think?
It's hard to say definitively. Could be haste, could be something else. But her identity was another long wait, confirmed just last year, July 2023.
Oh.
Through Othram Labs, using advanced SMP genome sequencing, her brother had uploaded his DNA to GED Match.
Amazing how that works now.
It really is. And the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the TBI, they're still actively trying to map her last known movements in Nashville back in February, March 85. So these identifications are still generating active leads.
The very next day, April 1st, 1985, is Spy Regina Pilgrim, 28, found in Gray, Kentucky, near a feeder road for US 25 and I-75. Her discovery, this one had a really bizarre element.
It really did. Her body was found jammed inside a discarded refrigerator.
Inside a fridge.
Yeah. With a Superwoman decal on it. She was only wearing socks and 2 pendants.
That's incredibly strange. Did it generate leads?
It generated a huge community response. Over 500 people came to her funeral. It was even televised. That led to dozens of tips, mostly from truckers via CB radio.
But nothing panned out.
No, unfortunately. Despite all that public attention, none of the tips led anywhere concrete at the time. Shows the limits of just having tips without the forensic tools we have now.
Then, just 2 days later, April 3rd, 1985, Tracy Sue Walker, she was only 15, found in Elk Valley, Tennessee, off a strip mine road about 4 miles from I-75.
Her remains were partial skeleton, initially just nicknamed Baby Girl. Identification took decades.
Another Othram case.
Yes. Identified August 30th, 2022, they linked her DNA to relatives in Lafayette, Indiana, and her story. It turns out she'd run away from home back in 1978 when she was just 12.
12 years old. So vulnerable.
Extremely. And there was another detail from the forensic anthropology report. A healed nasal fracture. Suggests possible childhood abuse, though that hasn't been traced. Her case really highlights the vulnerability of runaways on the highways.
Let's jump back just a bit chronologically to January 24, 1985. Lori K. Pennell, 22, found in Olive Branch, Mississippi off US 78. A truck driver spotted her.
Right. In her case, some clothing was removed, shoes, underwear, jacket. Cause of death was ligature strangulation, and there was evidence of sexual assault.
And her identification.
Also very recent, March 2024. DeSoto County used forensic genealogy 39 years after she was found.
39 years. It's incredible they're still solving these.
It is. And her family shared something poignant. They said she left home wanting to see the world with truckers.
Oh, that just underscores the danger, doesn't it? The vulnerability.
It really does. Trusting the wrong person on those routes.
April 14th, 1985. Elizabeth Marie Lamott, 17. Found in Greenville, Tennessee, off a back road maybe 5 miles from I-81. Her case had another twist. Right.
Yeah, a couple of things. She was pregnant, and she'd suffered blunt force trauma. Her body was badly decomposed when found.
And the identification.
Came via a DNA hit in November 2018. It connected her to a missing teen file from a group home up in New Hampshire. She'd actually vanished while she was out on furlough.
Wow. And there was another potential connection investigators looked into.
Right. Her DNA was initially sought because they thought she might be one of the Bear Brook victims, potentially linked to the serial killer Terry Peter Rasmussen.
Was she?
No, that specific link didn't pan out. But it just shows how these cold cases can sometimes overlap in investigations, especially now with DNA databases allowing them to cross-reference previously unknown connections.
Going further back now, February 13th, 1983, the Wetzel County Jane Doe, estimated age 30-45, found in Littleton, West Virginia off US 250. This one had a potential suspect description, didn't it?
It did, which makes it tantalizing. She was found nude on a snowy bank. Tire tracks and boot prints suggested she was moved after death.
And the witness.
Crucially, yes. Someone reported seeing a two-tone brown pickup truck, maybe a 78 to 80 Chevy with a camper shell, and a stocky white male driving it.
But never traced.
Never traced. It's still an open lead. Another detail. She had denture work done just weeks before she died. Investigators actually canvassed dentists in Ohio and West Virginia trying to ID her that way.
Shows the kind of old-school detective work they had to rely on.
Exactly. Every little detail mattered, even if it didn't lead anywhere immediately.
Okay, March 29th, 1985. Priscilla Ann Blevins, 27, found in Haywood County, North Carolina, off I-40.
Right. Now, she had actually been missing since 1975, so a decade before her remains were found.
So her inclusion in this specific Redhead murders cluster is debated.
It is, by some investigators, mainly because of that much earlier disappearance date. But, she had red hair, her body was found near the interstate like the others, and the time frame of discovery fits, so she's often included in the discussion.
Then there's Karen K. Nippers, 34, a 1981 homicide in Dixon, Missouri, found off a rural route. Also sometimes debated.
Yes. She had blondish red hair. Identified by DNA in 2021, they even had a headstone ceremony for her.
So why the debate about including her?
Well, the highway proximity fits the general pattern, but the cause of death was gunshot wounds. And that diverges pretty significantly from the strangulation methods seen in most of the core Redhead cases.
Right, that difference in MO is key to the whole one killer or many question.
Exactly. It's a major point of discussion.
Betty Lou Wisley, 51. Found August 29, 1987, Roane County, Tennessee, off I-40. What stands out about her case?
Her remains were found burned, specifically her torso. Identification came in 2023 using that kin-SNP rapid relationship testing we might talk about later.
And her age. 51 is older than most.
Yes, she's the oldest victim typically included in the cluster. That could suggest a couple things. Maybe the killer's preferred victim type widened over time, or
good points to a different killer altogether.
Precisely. Someone using similar dumping grounds, but with different victim selection.
Moving into the later years of the timeline. December 1988. Stacy Lynn Jaworski, 19. Found in Rising Fawn, Georgia, off I-59. Her case actually led to identifying a killer, right?
Yes. This was a significant breakthrough. She was strangled, sexually assaulted, identified in 2022, and the killer, pegged as a guy named Henry Hoswise. He was a truck stunt driver.
A stunt driver.
Yeah. He actually died back in 1999 in a fire at a racetrack. DNA linked him. His driving routes in Western Carolina overlapped with some earlier dump sites.
But he hasn't been linked to the other Redhead murders.
No, not through DNA evidence so far. So again, it points towards potentially different perpetrators operating in the same areas, maybe even inspired by earlier crime.
Okay, and the last one usually discussed in this context, Donna Sue Nelton, 28, found May 7, 1990 in Rogers, Arkansas, off a Highway 62 spur.
Her case is, well, very different in terms of the violence. She was shot, then set on fire, and even run over.
Wow, that's a major shift in MO.
A huge shift. Her body was identified in October 2022. But because of that drastic difference firearms, the burning being run over her status is often listed as probable rather than confirmed within the core Redhead cluster.
Like Karen Nippers, she really complicates that single killer theory.
Absolutely. Cases like hers and Nippers are key reasons why many investigators lean towards multiple killers now.
So we've heard these tragic stories. Now let's shift focus to the investigation itself. How did law enforcement grapple with this over the years? It seemed like a nightmare connecting cases across states back then.
It really was. You mentioned that 1985 multi-state conference, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, they brought in the FBI. It was a good first step trying to pool information.
But it hit a wall.
Yeah, the big limitation was technology, or the lack of it. No shared databases between states, not like we have today. They were literally comparing notes on paper, trying to see patterns across jurisdictions. It was incredibly difficult.
And then in 87, Jerry Leon Johns, the guy later linked to Tina Farmer, he was convicted of something similar, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right. He was convicted for the non-fatal strangulation of another red-haired hitchhiker.
Wow. A mirror image of the Tina Farmer method.
Exactly. It was chillingly similar. But forensic tech back then just wasn't advanced enough to make a definitive DNA link between that assault and Tina's murder case, even though the MO was staring them in the face.
Shows how far forensics has come.
Immensely. What was impossible then is becoming almost routine now.
Okay, fast forward quite a bit. 2009, the FBI launches the Highway Serial Killings Initiative. You mentioned this earlier. How did that really change things?
That was a true game changer. They started using modern VICAP, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program database.
VICAP, right.
Yeah. These tools could automatically flag similarities between cases across the country. Things that might have been missed before because of state lines or just different ways of keeping records. It allowed for a centralized, systematic way to look at these crimes, finally recognizing that killers don't care about state borders.
Now, there's a really interesting story from 2018, an Elizabethan high school sociology class. What did they do?
This is pretty amazing, actually. These students took on the case as a project, they did research, developed a profile. They actually coined the term Bible Belt Strangler.
They came up with that name?
They did, and they put together this detailed 40-page offender profile. It got a lot of media attention.
Did it help the investigation?
It definitely reignited public interest and brought in a new wave of tips. More than that, I think it really showed the potential value of, crowdsourcing and getting fresh perspectives on cold cases. Even non-professionals can spot things or generate buzz that helps.
That's fantastic. And then really from 2018 onwards, we see this explosion in forensic genetic genealogy.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Othram Parabon. How has that tech impacted this specific cluster of cases?
It's been transformative. In just the last few years, these technologies have identified, I think it's 7 of the Redhead victims who were previously Jane Does.
7. That's incredible.
It is. And they also confirmed the identities of 2 separate killers, Jerry Leon Johns for Tina Farmer and Henry Haas Wise for Stacy Chihorsky. It just proved how vital it is to go back and retest old evidence with these new methods. It's breathing life back into cases that were cold for decades.
So looking at all the evidence gathered over time, how do investigators separate the signal from the noise? Is there a dominant pattern that holds true for most victims?
Well, if you look at the cause of death, strangulation or asphyxiation is clearly the dominant method in the core group.
Right.
Cases like Karen Nippers with the gunshot wounds or Donna Sue Nelton with the shooting and burning, those are really statistical outliers.
And that difference is central to the debate.
Absolutely. It's the main reason why the theory has shifted from one Redhead murderer to potentially multiple killers operating along the same routes, maybe even mimicking each other sometimes.
What about how the bodies were left? The transport signatures, as the outline called them. Any patterns there?
It's a mix, which also complicates things. Sometimes you see improvisation like a spy pilgrim in the refrigerator or Betty Whisley being burned that suggests maybe spur-of-the-moment disposal.
Right.
But other times there seems to be more ritual. Bodies left nude near the roadside, often maybe 30 to 50 miles from the last known dump site. These variations could hint at different motivations, maybe even different offenders, or perhaps one offender whose methods changed over time. It adds layers to that single versus multiple killer question.
You mentioned this earlier, but it seems really significant, the pregnancy link. Tina Farmer, Elizabeth Lamont, Stacy Chihorsky, all pregnant or recently miscarried. What might that tell profilers?
It's a really striking point in the victimology, isn't it? That at least 3 confirmed victims shared this status. It strongly suggests there might have been a specific trigger for the killer, or killers. Maybe something related to sexuality or misogyny, or perhaps a deep-seated anger related to motherhood itself.
That's a deeply disturbing angle.
It is, and it's something profilers are likely still trying to fully understand. It suggests a motivation potentially even more specific than just the red hair.
Okay, let's talk suspects and theories more directly. We've mentioned Jerry Leon Johns and Henry Haas Wise, both linked via DNA to one victim each, both now deceased. Any more on them?
Well, with Johns, the Cody's match to Tina Farmer's blanket is solid. His trucking routes along I-40 fit. But again, he's only definitively tied to that one murder. Does that mean he didn't commit others? We don't know for sure. The evidence just isn't there yet.
And Wise, linked to Stacy Chihorsky.
Same situation, really. DNA under her fingernails. His work logs put him on I-59 near where she was found. But no DNA links to other Redhead victims have surfaced. So we have 2 identified killers, but they don't solve the whole cluster.
What about that Bible-built strangler profile the students came up with? A white male, 30s, 40s, and the 80s, maybe used religious language on the CB. Any physical evidence ever back that up?
It's a compelling behavioral profile based on patterns and geography. But no, it's important to stress, no physical evidence like DNA has ever been linked specifically to that profile. It remains a theory, a possible archetype, but not a confirmed individual.
And the West Virginia pickup driver. The witness saw near the Wetzel County Jane Doe.
Right, that 2-tone brown Chevy pickup with the camper shell, driven by a stocky white male, the tire tracks, the sighting. It was a concrete lead back in '83, but that vehicle, that driver, they were just never traced. It could point to a more localized killer in that specific instance, or just a lead that went cold.
So with all these variations, different MOs, wide age range, geographic spread, specific DNA hits on different people, what is the consensus among profilers now? Single killer or multiple?
The consensus has definitely shifted. The evidence of the different causes of death, the age range from 15 to 51, the shift to using firearms later on, it all strongly points towards multiple killers.
So not one redhead murderer?
Probably not. The term profilers often used now is a cluster, not serial, meaning it's likely a collection of murders committed by different individuals, probably opportunistic predators like truck drivers, who were operating along the same highway corridors and perhaps drawn to a similar victim type, vulnerable women, often with red hair.
A constellation of killers rather than one star.
That's a good way to put it. It suggests multiple unrelated predators exploiting the same environment and victim vulnerabilities. It completely changes how you approach solving the remaining cases.
Which makes the forensic tech even more crucial. Let's quickly break down some of that tech for listeners. What's the basic difference between the older STR DNA matching, like CODIS uses, and the newer SNP tech that Othram and others use?
Okay, yeah, this is key to understanding the recent progress. STR, or short tandem repeat, is what CODIS uses. It's great for matching DNA profiles already in the system, comparing known offenders to crime scene evidence.
Right.
SNP, or single nucleotide polymorphism, testing is much more powerful for identification. Companies like Othram use kits that analyze maybe 10,000 times more genetic markers than STR.
10,000 times.
Roughly, yeah. This allows forensic genealogists to find much more distant relatives, third, fourth, fifth cousins, and build family trees to figure out who an unknown person, like a Jane Doe, might be, even from tiny or degraded samples. That's how they're cracking these decades-old cases.
And you mentioned KINS-NP rapid relationship testing, specifically for Betty Lou Wisley.
Yeah, that's basically a highly optimized workflow using SNP tech. It solved Betty Lou Wisley's ID in just 6 weeks, using an incredibly small amount of DNA, like 20 picograms. It's super efficient for really tough degraded samples.
And one more technique, not yet used here but potentially useful. Isotopic hair analysis. What could that do?
This is fascinating stuff. Basically, the chemical isotopes in your hair reflect the water and food you consumed. By analyzing hair strands, scientists can map out geographically where a person lived in the months or year before they died.
So it could pinpoint where an unidentified victim came from.
Potentially, yes. With remarkable accuracy sometimes. It could really help narrow down the search for a Jane Doe's identity. The main challenge right now seems to be funding to apply it more widely in cold cases like these.
So as we start to wrap this up, we're definitely left with some haunting questions. And maybe you listening have been thinking about these too. Like, what happened between 1986 and 1987? There seems to have been a 2-year gap or lull in the body discoveries. Any theories on that?
That's a big question mark. Profilers might speculate. Was a key perpetrator in prison during that time? Maybe deployed in the military? Or did they simply change their trucking routes, moving their activity elsewhere? It's a gap that's hard to explain without knowing who all the perpetrators were.
And what about that Superwoman decal on the fridge with Asparagina Pilgrim? Is there potential symbolism there? Maybe, as the outline suggested, a killer's contempt for independent women, or something more personal?
It's possible. Symbolism in crime scenes can be very personal to the offender, sometimes obscure. It could reflect misogyny, or it might have had some completely different meaning only the killer understood. It's one of those details that remains deeply unsettling and unexplained.
And that pregnancy angle again. Tina Farmer, Elizabeth Lamott, Stacy Jaworski, were they targeted because they were pregnant or had recently miscarried? Is that a core motivation we're seeing?
It's a chilling possibility that can't be ignored. It suggests a very specific and disturbing psychological trigger. We just don't have the full picture to say for sure, but it's a significant pattern.
And finally, thinking about the victims. Some, like Tina Farmer and Elizabeth Lamott, weren't even officially listed as missing persons back then. It makes you wonder.
How many more are out there? Exactly. Yeah. How many invisible victims whose disappearances were never connected, whose cases haven't even been linked to this cluster yet? It's a sobering thought.
Which leads us to a call to action, especially if you or someone you know was part of the trucking community back in the 80s. Old logbooks, memories of CB radio chatter, anything could be relevant.
Absolutely. Something that seemed insignificant then might be a crucial piece now.
So here are some specific things you can do. If you're comfortable with it, consider uploading your DNA to a public database like GEDmatch and opting in for law enforcement matching. Or you could consider donating to organizations like Othram, who fund the testing for these cold cases. Every bit helps.
And think about old photos. Maybe you have Polaroids from truck stops back in the 80s. Is it possible an unidentified Jane Doe is in the background of one of those shots? It sounds like a long shot, but it's happened before. Check those old albums.
And most importantly, if you have any information, anything at all that might relate to these cases, please use the tip lines. For the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, call 1-800-TBI-FIND-NIGHT. Make sure you mention the Redhead Murders Task Force.
And for the FBI's VICAP unit, you can email them at vicap@fbi.gov. Please put highway serial killings in the subject line so it gets routed correctly.
Somewhere. Maybe in a dusty glove box, maybe in a forgotten photo album. There might be a missing piece, a fuel receipt, a snapshot, maybe a half-remembered conversation or confession.
After 40 years, these women, these red-haired women, they still deserve their names back, they deserve their stories told, and they absolutely deserve justice.
So if you rolled asphalt between 1978 and 1992, please check your memories, check your memorabilia. One phone call really could finish what DNA technology has started.